Hi, I'm Dylighted, and today I'm going to be going over my semifinals match and a post-game analysis where I go undercover in this 300-person tournament. I want to say thank you and welcome to everyone who is new on my channel, as my channel has exploded in the last 2 weeks.
I noticed that 90% of my viewers are not subscribed. I have never asked for subscribers before, but I want to do everything I can to help this community grow. I try and make weekly videos, and I put hours and hours into them. I'll continuously make more Catan content and strategy videos. I ask that if you're able to learn one thing from this video, or if I entertain you for a little bit, then please subscribe. Thank you.
So, I'm placing in the first position on this interesting board where there's a lot of high ore. As a viewer, go ahead and take a second to pause and see where you would go and why. Alright, great. On high ore boards, there's a high chance you're going to get a strong ore spot when it comes back to you as your second pick, even in the first position. Just go ahead and look at this board. If we look at the 8 ore, there's 2 ore spots. There's the 8-4-3, 8-3-11. There's also the 6 ore. There could also be 2 ore spots over there. And then there's 9 ore. You can also say that there's going to be another ore spot. At minimum, there's going to be around 5 ore spots. And doubling up an ore when there's not that much wheat is sort of dangerous. So I don't anticipate all the ore spots to be locked when it comes back to me. So in order to play a strong development card or wheat sheep game, then I should be taking the strong wheat sheep, anticipating myself getting the strong ore when it comes back to me. Therefore, the choice is to take the 6-9-12 and point towards the coast towards the wheat port. You don't point right on the 6-9-12 towards the ore port because there's a strong chance it could be contested, and I don't know how these players play. For all I know, they could be extremely ore wheat sheep happy and go on the 6-4 and the 6-10-11, cutting my road off. And as an ore wheat sheep player, it is absolutely imperative to save your roads. Therefore, I do the safe and conservative option and point towards the wheat port because I have 2 settlement spot options, the 6 sheep and the 9 wheat. If I point my road to the right, trying to get on the 6-4, it incentivizes other players to place on the 6-4 to cut me off. It's a much safer option to point towards the coast and hope for a road bidding to build on the 6-4. In the second position, Black places on the 8-4-3 and he points his road towards the 4-9. I like where Black pointed his road towards a 4-9 because not only does it deny me, the ore wheat sheep player, a spot, it also gets Black access to the critical wheat spot. If Black can get 2 sources of wheat with a strong ore, then they are in great shape. Blue chooses the 4-9-10, which I think is a strong option. However, they choose to point the road to the right, which I disagree with. Although yes, you might be able to expand to the 10-11 and the 9-11 too. It is more imperative to get yourself a port. I could not emphasize how important a port is, especially in these more competitive games. The reason is because people get more conservative and tight with trading, and they become a lot smarter when trading. So to still make correct decisions and to be flexible, you need a port. In this scenario, there's not only the ore port if you point upwards, there's also the 3-1 port. In addition, we already said that this was a high ore board, and if Blue point towards the coast, they can not only double up on the wheat, but also have access to the strong ore port, especially since there's so much ore. Therefore, I think it's a greedy mistake by Blue to point his road to the right. In the fourth position, Red decides to place on the 6-2-10 and the 5-8-2. With this placement, Red is able to get all 5 resources and start with the free road, which is pretty nice. Red on the 6-9-2 points their road upwards, hoping to expand on the 6-9-12 or the 9-11. For the 5-2-8, they point their road to the right. I think it's a pretty safe option going towards a 3-1 port, but I also think it's another strong option to point upwards towards the sheep port, because you're able to get yourself more brick, and you can double up in your 5 sheep and get on the sheep port. It's a pretty strong combo. Now it's Blue's turn, back again, playing as the third position. Blue goes ahead and places on the 8-11-3. Blue once again points towards the center, and opts not to choose a port. I think that this is a critical mistake. Even if Blue goes on the 6-3-11, they're going to have 14 points of ore. But one of the biggest mistakes I see in this game is mindlessly expanding and not having a plan. How does this exactly help his game? Does he have enough wheat to support the 14 points of ore? Does he have enough sheep to support the 14 points of ore? Will Blue have enough brick to support all that wood? The answer is no, which is why it's so important to point towards the coast and to be able to get those resources and have a balanced ratio. Do not mindlessly expand and think about, how does this expansion help me and develop my game? Will it clog my hand, or will I be able to use these resources and propel me to victory? It's also important to note, if Blue pointed upwards on the 4-9-10, they would actually be able to use all that ore for the ore port, and deny me the 6-4 spot if I do get a road bidding. In addition, if they pointed upwards on the 4-9-10, they'd be able to get the 3-1 port to port all that wood. Now it's black's turn in the second position, and they choose the 11-10-5. This makes a lot of sense, and I think that's the right choice. They also point their road towards the desert, which I think is the right choice, since it gives them the 8-10 expansion option, and it gives them the 5 sheep expansion option. Now it rotates back to me in the first position. Where do I place, and why?
But before I place, if you've seen my last video, you know that I'm quite fed up with Catan Universe. I decided to partner up with Colonist.io and officially endorse them. Colonist.io is an alternative way to play Catan that is super quick and easy to set up. I recommend everyone to try out Colonist.io as it's bug-free and it's an easy-to-use platform. In fact, that's where I'm playing the tournament today. You can set up a game in seconds just by pressing create and sending a link to your friends or strangers. I truly think that it's the future of online Catan. Thank you Colonist.io for sponsoring this video, but more importantly, thank you for all the work that you do for the community. Back to the video.
I place on the 6-9-12 and pointed towards the left. I chose this option over other options because it's the highest producing spot and it gives me strong production, which is what I want. In addition, it blocks the 6-9-12 spot from red, which is also what I want. I have coordinated numbers. Sheep and ore are useful for buying development cards, and the 9 ore and wheat is also useful for buying cities and development cards. This is a high variance setup, so it's very dangerous since I'm only on 3 numbers, the 6, 9, and the 12. Unlike other high variance setups, my numbers are coordinated and I can actually use them whenever they roll. Let's say you're only on the numbers 8, 4, and 3, and the resources don't go together. The thing is, if you don't have a port, your hand is going to be clogged. However, in my situation, I have coordinated 6s, which can also go together and be used together, and I have the coordinated 9s, which can also be used together, which is better because it won't clog my hand and I can actually use these resources. However, we still have to keep in mind, this setup that I have is very dangerous since it's a very high variance setup, because there's a small chance I get the 6-3-11. It doesn't really make sense for me to point my road anywhere else, because if I point my road to the right, red instantly cuts me off with the free road. If I point my road upwards, that doesn't really make sense since I can still get to the 6-4 with 2 roads on the 6-9-12 sheep. So I drop my road to the left, and it's a pretty useless road. It's not going to really do much. I should also note that this is a non-tabletop game. So in the first roll of the game, I roll a 7. I decide to block the 8 ore because it's one of the highest producing spots and because it gives my opponents ore. I decide to steal from black because they have the wood, wheat, and sheep. In this scenario, every single card is useful. I want their wheat because if a single 6 or 9 hits, that gets me a city. An early city is imperative. If I get a sheep, then I can buy a development card, which is also great. And if I get a wood, that's one of my rare road materials that I need in this game. So I decide to steal from black because there's a 100% chance that I get something useful. I don't want to steal from blue because there's a 1/3 chance I get the ore from blue, and that ore is actually useless. The reason why I say it's useless is because I'm going to be getting ores from my 6s and 9s. I already have too much of it. I also block the 8 ore because it prevents black from buying a development card. On blue's turn, they roll a 3. They offer a sheep for a brick, but it's not going to go through since there's only one person who has brick, and that's red, and they want to use it for the free road. So it's red's turn, and they roll a 4. They decide to drop their free road on the 9-11. It's my turn, and I roll a 5. I have a decision to make. Do I buy the development card, or do I hold for the city? Before I make that decision, I should try trading to see if I can get a wheat. I know the only wheat inside this game is from black, and I know their hand is wood, brick, and wheats. I don't think that they're going to give me a 1-for-1 trade for the wheat. And I feel it's a little bit too early for me to try to go for a 2-for-1, especially since I'm on a lot of wheat already. And keep in mind, if I get a city this early, then I'm going to be pounded with the robber in the early game. So I decide to buy a development card, and I get a knight, which is a fine card to get. Having robber control is imperative. On black's turn, they roll a 6. They decide to pass. Now, it's blue's turn, and they roll a 7. They move on to the 6 ore, they go ahead and take from red. In the chat, I specify the weaknesses of my setup. It's very, very difficult for me to expand. I don't have any ports, and I'm on 2 numbers. I say this because these are real weaknesses, and I can easily lose this game due to variance. I genuinely dislike these high variance setups because it's harder to make the right decisions because you're straight up given less decisions to make, because you only have 2 numbers. And red says you can 4-1 and you have a slow start and a strong end. While that is sort of true, the issue with the setup is that I can have too slow of a start, which makes me basically lose the game. Red goes ahead and rolls an 11, and that's wood for everyone. Red is wanting a brick, and they're offering ore. They're wanting also wood, and they're offering ore. They're also wanting in wheat, and they're offering ore. On this board, ore is actually a lot weaker and less valued of a resource because everyone has so much of it. It's my turn now, and before I roll, I try to play my knight card. I click when there's 3 seconds left, except I think the servers were being overloaded and it took a while for it to register. However, by that time, the dice has already rolled. Luckily, I don't get punished. I block the 8 ore again and I steal from black. And I steal from black because I know they have the brick since the 4 rolled. And if I get the brick, then I can build a road and secure myself an expansion spot, which is very critical. I think you can also make a strong argument to block the wheat since there's so much ore. Now I've gotten myself a brick, I have a road. Now let's go ahead and see where you're supposed to build a road and why. If I drop my road on the 6 through 11, there's actually a strong chance I'm going to lose that spot. I've gotten very lucky with getting my wood and the bricks with the robbers. And the 6 through 11 doesn't even help me that much. Once again, it's useless production. I have too much ore and I'm going to have too much wood without any bricks. I don't have a ports to go with that either. Therefore, the 6 through 11 is not that useful to me. If I drop my road to the left and go towards a wheat port, I'm actually in a race with black since they're trying to expand to the 4-9. Black has access to both wood and brick, while I don't have access to anything. I'm going to have to 4-for-1 my way and steal wood and bricks in order to get a settlement. And if I get cut off, that is a massive, massive loss to my game. The safer option is just going towards the 6 sheep, and therefore I do. It's black's turn and then they roll a 3. Right now the hand is stuck with wood, wheat, and sheep. I steal from black because I know they have 2 bricks. Black drops a road towards a 4-9, and I'm grateful that I didn't race them. I also didn't steal from blue because they had 8 cards, and I don't want to bring them under 7 cards. If anything, I want to increase the chance my opponents can 7 out. Blue does a 4-for-1, and 4-for-1's for a brick, and they drop the road backwards on the 4-10 segment. This is why I think blue should have pointed towards the coast originally, since now they're going to have a delayed start compared to everyone else. It's red's turn, and they roll a 6. I've coined a wheat sheeps, but the issue is that I have too little wheat, and I'm reliant on my 9s. If 9s do not roll, then I am screwed. If 12s don't roll, which they rarely do, then I'm also screwed. This is why I don't like the setup, and I think that it's a very high variance setup. I roll a 5 on my turn. The weakness of this setup starts to really show. I'm forced to trade for wheat right here, but I'm doubtful that I'm going to get any wheat since there's barely any on the board. It doesn't make sense for me to 4-for-1 my ores for any road materials, since building the 6 sheep doesn't do anything for me either. I'm building on the 6 sheep just for the point. It also does not feel like a very strong play for me to 4-for-1 for wheats, and I'm going to be stolen from, and if I lose that wheat, then I'm losing 4 cards. Therefore, I elect to pass. However, passing here is also a really bad option too, since if a 6 rolls, I'll be brought over 7 cards, and if a 9 rolls, I'll be brought over 7 cards, or if a 12 rolls, I'll be brought over 7 cards. So basically every option here sucks. It feels awful 4-for-1ing ore for a resource that you already produce. Black rolls an 8, but the 8 ore is blocked. One of the more subtle reasons I want to block the 8 ore is because black is going to be getting on 2 wheat spots. If I can block the 8 ore, then I can score a lot of trades ore for wheat, which is what I want. In this case, by blocking the 8 ore, I'm able to get an ore for wheat trade. I know that this trade gets them a development card, since they have wheat and sheep. However, I needed to make my hand unstuck, because if a 9 hits, then that's a city. Blue goes ahead and rolls a 7, and he blocks a 6 ore, and he takes from red. I'm suspecting that blue doesn't want to steal from me because my hand is full of ore and sheep, cards that blue does not want. Remember, they're on 2 ore spots. And they go ahead and steal from red. Blue goes ahead and offers a wheat for a sheep. I snap trade this deal. I snap this trade saying yes, since I know that black will also say yes to this trade, since they just used all their wheat. I think the creative play here is to actually counter offer 2 sheep, knowing that black was going to say that deal. So, instead I should offer an even better deal to guarantee my city, since that's a huge trade for me. Red on their turn rolls a 6, and my 6 ore is blocked and it gets me a sheep. But it's actually a good thing since it puts me at exactly 7 cards and I can't get 7 out. And the thing is, if a single 6 or 9 rolls, then I can still get a city. So I'm pretty happy with this. I roll a 7, and this is where I really want a wheat. I decide to block the 8 ore and I steal from black, because they have the wheat. I also know that there's no bad result from stealing from black. When they have sheep, which gives me a 4-for-1 for a city, they have wheat, which gives me a city, or they have any of the road materials, which is useful for me. Therefore, stealing from black is a guaranteed good card. I steal from black and I get their wood, which is probably the worst card I could get. I choose to buy a dev card right here because I think it's imperative to not only keep my spots blocked, but to also block my opponent's 8 ore. On black's turn, they roll an 8, and they decide to pass. It's notable that they don't play a development card, indicating to me that card is not a knight. On blue's turn, they roll a 6, and that gives me 7 cards, but I still can't do anything with his hand. On red's turn, they roll a 5, and that's sheep for red and black. And on my turn, I roll another 6. Now I'm at 9 cards, but my hand is totally dead. I'm put in a very tough position since everyone right now is trying to hold on to their wheats. They're not going to trade it. There also is barely any brick on the board, and they're not going to trade it either. So I decide to 4-for-1 my sheep for a wheat, because if a 9 hits, then that gets me a city, which is what I really need. It's Black's turn, and they're wanting an ore for a sheep. The reason why they want this is because it gets them a development card, because I don't want them to get a dev card. It's Blue's turn, and they roll a 9, and that gets me my city. However, I can still lose a city to a 7. Blue's at 8 cards, and they're looking for wheat. They offer 2 woods for a wheat. There's no way Black is going to trade their only wheat. So I say no to that trade, since if I took that trade, then Blue would get a city. So instead, Blue decides to buy a development card and pass their turn. Now, it's Red's turn, and they roll a 4, and that's more brick and wheat on the board. It's very important to keep track of people's cards, especially in a scenario like this. You need to be able to pluck the right cards to be able to achieve those difficult objectives. Red goes ahead and plays an offensive knight. They decide to block the 4 wheat, and I think that's because they're fishing for the wheat. Then they decide to buy a development card, then pass. It's my turn. I roll another 9, and I'm very, very happy with this. So I have a decision to make. What do I upgrade and why? Do I upgrade the 6, 9, 12 ores, or do I upgrade the 6, 9, 12 sheep wheat? The right play here is to actually upgrade the 6, 9, 12 wheat. The reasoning for this is because I want my hand to be able to buy a lot of dev cards. If you think about the dev card ratio, it's 1, 1, and 1. By upgrading the 6, 9, 12 wheat sheep, it allows me to buy dev cards way more efficiently. If I upgraded the ore right here, it would take me a really long time to get a second city. I think I just need to buy dev cards right here. I think the stronger, more consistent option is to upgrade the 6, 9, 12 and to be able to buy a lot of dev cards. I make a mistake here and build my city before I trade, and because of that, everyone's going to be afraid of me and not want to trade with me. No trades are likely to go through, so I end my turn. The 4 is rolled, and that 4 wheat is blocked, which is really critical to Blue. Black goes ahead and builds a settlement on the 4-9, which is actually really important for Black, because it gets them a second wheat spot, and they start sharing it with me, and I am the ore wheat sheep player, and I'm going to be defending that wheat spot. I roll a 6 on my turn, which is pretty huge, since now I can buy another development card. However, I'm at 8 cards, and the robber can still roll. My dream is to get a road buddy and to be able to build on the 6-4. That would allow my upgrade on the 6, 9, 12 to be amazing. But right now, I don't have the ore port, and upgrading the 6, 9, 12 is too weak. Red goes ahead and rolls a 7, and I'm forced to discard my cards. I'm stuck deciding if I want to discard my wood or sheep. If I keep my wood, well, it's a rare wood for my settlement. But if I toss my wood, then another 6 gets me 4 sheep and allows me to do a 4-for-1 and buy a city. However, the better play, in my opinion, is just to keep the wood and dump the sheep. I also want to make sure to keep at least 1 ore wheat sheep so I can make sure to buy a development card. But the bigger mistake is that I'm starting to panic and I'm running out of time to discard the robber. So, at 2 seconds left, I choose what to discard. And because I'm too slow to make my decision, it automatically discards everything for me. So I lose my precious woods and I keep my worthless ores. This is a huge mistake that could have just been prevented if I played faster. This is extremely unfortunate. Red offers me an ore for wood deal, but while that looks appealing, I don't want to give Red a city or development cards. Those are both bad, so I decide to say no to that trade. The wood doesn't necessarily help me now, so I don't want to take it. Red now offers an ore for 2 woods. This is a really good deal, and I'm so tempted to take it. This trade doesn't necessarily do anything. However, I should have taken it, and the reason why is because I wasn't tracking well enough. And the reason why I should have taken it was because I know Blue also has a lot of ore. And if Blue also has a lot of ore, they're going to be willing to do that trade. That trade is more beneficial for me compared to Blue. And if I can ever intercept the trade, that's really good for me. It's my turn, I roll an 11, and I can't really do anything. If it didn't automatically discard for me, then I would be able to buy a development card. A really tragic mistake that could have been prevented just by playing faster. So, with nothing to do, I pass my turn. Black goes ahead and rolls an 8, and passes. Blue rolls a 5, and does a 4-for-1 for a brick and builds a road to the ore port. This is really bad for me, since once Blue builds on the ore port, then my only spot is in the 6 sheep. And if my only spot is going to be on the 6 sheep, that forces my win condition to get 2 victory points, largest army, and 3 cities. Red rolls a 7 on their turn, and they have 8 cards, so they're forced to discard. They decide to block the 9 wheat and steal from me, getting my ore. On my turn, I play my knight, because if a single 9 rolls, I'm able to get a city. I block the 8 ore and I steal from Black. I think Black is actually in a very strong position to win this game, especially since they're on both wheat tiles. I also know that they have wood and sheep in hand, and any of those cards are useful. So I decide to buy a development card and I get a knight, and then I pass. It's black's turn and they roll a 4. Blue rolls an 8 and his ore is blocked. And I say to blue, hey blue, why don't you try going towards the 6-3-11? And I say this for 2 reasons. The first reason being is because if black is able to get on the 6-3-11, they are absolutely terrifying. They're going to have 2 wheat spots, 2 ore spots, and a sheep spot. So I think blue has to get the 6-3-11 in order to make black not destroy us. The second reason is because if they decide to shift focus on the 6-3-11 and not go for the ore port, then that gives me the backdoor out of drawing a road building and building on the 6-4 myself. Of course, black right here tries to table talk and says, no, the ore port is better for them. But I know if black builds 2 roads backwards and cuts blue off to the 6-3-11, they are in an amazing, amazing spot. They're going to be extremely hard to block, which is the recipe for winning the game. It's red's turn, and they roll a 6. There are 8 cards. Let's see what they decide to do. Black says, no, it's too hard for me to get there, but that's actually not true at all. All they have to do is build 2 roads and cut blue off. I don't have any road bidding material, so I won't be able to get on the 6-3-11. On my turn, I can't really do anything. There's no reason for me to play the knight, so I pass. Black asks why don't I go for the 6-3-11? Because it's a trap and I'm in a race with blue. The 6-3-11 is only useful for a spot. It's blue's turn and they roll a 10, and that's wheat for black and red. Blue tries to trade for wheat, but no one says yes. Red rolls a 7 on their turn, and they're forced to discard once again. Right here, red moves the robber and steals from black. However, I think that they could have moved the robber to a stronger spot like the 9 wheat and forced me to play my knight. But they steal from black for 2 reasons, because they have the precious wheat, and because they have the precious brick in order for red to build their settlement. Red steals the brick successfully and builds in the 9-11. Then on my turn, I roll the 11. It's my turn and I try trading for wheat, but no trades go through, so I pass. Once again, I can't really do much if my numbers don't roll. This setup does not give me very much flexibility to make the right decisions. Black goes ahead and builds a road backwards. Now it's blue's turn. Blue rolls a 12 on their turn. Now have a lot of wheat. Blue goes ahead and offers a brick, but no one says yes, so they decide to pass. It's red's turn and they roll an 8. They decide to build a road to the 3-1 port. I like this decision. I think it makes a lot of sense. On my turn, I roll a 3. I decide to go ahead and buy a development card because I think having robber control is really important, and forfeiting wheat for ore doesn't really make sense. I think it was a mistake not trying trading wheat for ores in order for me to get a city. However, the development card I buy is a road bidding, and this is huge. The reason why this is so important, because now I can expand to either the 6-4, which is massive for my game, or I can expand to the 6-3-11, which is also a great increase in protection. The wood is sort of useless and just sort of sits around in my hand, but I'm grateful for a settlement spot if possible. I offer a wheat for sheep here, and blue says yes to that trade. Blue says yes to my deal, but I say no. If I trade blue, they get the ore port, which is a spot that I want myself. I go ahead and play an aggressive knight and I block the 10 wheat, and I take from red. The reason I did this was because an 11 rolled on their turn, and I thought that their last card was a brick. However, I totally forgot that they built a road. The reason why I wanted red's brick so badly was because then if a single 6 hits for me, then I can road bidding onto the 6-4 and take the spot from blue. And if I get the 6-4, that is a massive boost to my game. However, I screw up and red doesn't have a brick, and they have a wheat instead. While wheat certainly doesn't hurt me, I would much rather have the brick. I also don't want to steal from black because there are 8 cards, and blue's over 8 cards too. On black's turn, they roll another 12. I have literally all wheat in my hand, and I was not expecting this at all. Black offers a wheat for an ore, and blue decides to take it. Black is now wanting another ore, and I know that they're trying to hold for the city. This is getting dangerous. So I tell the chat saying, we probably shouldn't be giving black a city. And they're going to be doing really well, especially once they upgrade the 8-4-3. They're going to have 2 wheat spots, multiple wood spots. Keep in mind that black is expanding to the wood port, and they're on the 3, 11, and 8, which often don't get blocked. This is very dangerous. Black gets a city on the 8-4-3, and this is a bad situation to be in. They are actually in a very good spot to win this game. Blue rolls a 7 on their turn, and I'm forced to discard my cards, and blue is forced to discard their cards too. Blue makes a wise decision and decides to block black on their 4 brick. On red's turn, they roll a 4, and I'm so grateful that that spot is blocked. On my turn, I roll a 9. I offer a wheat for wood right here because I want to be able to have the out of being able to road bidding to the 6-4. Right here, I'm at 7 cards, and I really don't want to hold because I might get 7 out the next turn. So I decide to go ahead and 4-for-1 my precious wheats for a brick. And the reason why I do this, if a 6 rolls and I can get sheep, and I think I can easily trade for wood, letting my road bidding be effective. On black's turn, they roll a 9, and they pass. On blue's turn, they roll a 4, and I'm extremely grateful once again that that 4 brick is blocked. Blue offers a wood for an ore. I snap yes to this deal. The reason for this is because if I give them ore, then I know they're either buying a city or a development card. That means they're probably not going to buy a settlement. And that's great since I can cut them off to the 6-4, which is what I want. And if a single 6, 9, or 12 rolls, then I can get my settlement. So I give blue a city, but at the strong chance of me getting the 6-4 spot. Red offers a brick for 2 wheats. I say no to their trade since it doesn't help me at all, and they decide to pass. So it's my turn, and a 5 is rolled. This is great news. I can try trading for my sheep, and I can build on the 6-4, which is an absolutely amazing spot for me. So I do the standard wheat for sheep trade, and I really hope that someone says yes. They want 2 wheats for a single sheep, and I counteroffer them for an ore. They said to say no, so I'm forced to just say yes to their trade. So I give them 2 wheats for a sheep, and I'm able to do a road bidding and get on the 6-4. This is a massive boost to my game. I can actually have a shot at winning this. Before, I thought my odds of winning were low, but with this road bidding, this is huge. Now, upgrading the 6-9-12 does a lot for me. An 8 was rolled on blue's turn, and that's really, really bad. I don't want black getting their hands on ore. They're at 9 cards. This is dangerous. Longest road has not been taken still. It's red's turn, and they roll another 8. I think black has a very, very, very good chance at winning this game. On my turn, I decide to buy a development card, because that's pretty much all I can do. You could argue that I hold, but remember, if any of my numbers hit, that puts me immediately over 7 cards, so it's pretty dangerous. I decide to play my knight on the 10 wheat and steal from black, because I'm trying to break their city and steal one of their wheats. They roll a 7 on their turn, and I sign relief, since they can't do a monster turn. However, they still do have their city in hand, and they upgrade the 11-10-5. This is very, very scary. Now on blue's turn, they roll a 10. This is even worse, they have 3 wheats in hand. I also know that black has a victory point, since they haven't played that one dev card the entire game. I ask the players to please try it and take longest road, red or blue. Blue goes ahead and builds a road to the 6-3-11, then passes. On red's turn, they roll a 9. Now red has 4 wheats in hand. It's my turn, and I decide to play a knight before my roll. Although red has 4 wheats in hand, they also have woods in hand. I decide to block the 4 brick because I know since they have woods in hand, they're on the 8, 11, and 3. They have to win through getting longest road. So if I block the bricks, then they can't get longest road. This is why I like to block the 4 brick over the 8 ore. The 8 ore is not that useful anymore since they already have 2 cities. Those 2 cities are massive, but from now on, if they build cities, it's less useful. Therefore, I just want to stop their win condition and try to block them from getting longest road. So I block the 4 brick. I try trading for ore so I could potentially buy more development cards and keep black blocked. I get a year of playing, which is pretty nice, so it'll be able to get me my city. On black's turn, they roll a 3. This is bad. If that's a victory point, then all they need is 2 roads to win the game. It's red's turn, then they roll a 8. This is bad again. It's more ore wheats for black. I roll a 5, and they're at 11 cards. Now, let me address what black's saying inside the chat. They're saying that we're whining, blocking black, but first of all, this is a tournament. Second of all, black is by far in the best position. I would switch my position with black any day. And third of all, if you're going to say don't block the leader because you're winning, then that's pretty stupid. Black rolls an 8 on their turn, and they're at 14 cards. Black plays a knight card and blocks a 6 ore and decide to steal from me. On black's turn, they buy 2 development cards and they get a city. That was a massive, massive turn. There is a reason why I'm saying to block black, because they can do stuff like that. They advocate for other players to take the longest road, since black can win with simply 2 roads, and if one of those development cards are road bidding, then that's the game. Blue decides to block the 8 wood and take from red. I would much rather blue block the 4 brick, as red needs the woods also in order to take longest road. All we can do now is pray that red can take longest road. They're able to do 2 3-for-1s and connect the roads. I am so grateful that they're able to do this. Red could be at 8 points. However, black could straight up win the game with the road bidding or year plenty with any of their numbers hitting, 3, 11, or 4. So by red bidding the 2 roads, it prevents black from winning on their turn. I roll a 12 in my turn and I'm flooded with wheats. There's no ore on the board and I can't do anything, so I decide to pass. No one has brick or ore. On black's turn, they roll a 7. They decide to block the 6 ore and then they steal from me. Black says they should consider turning off the chat in tournaments, which I think is absolutely stupid. And red points out, well, it's part of Catan to talk. It's a huge part of the game. And black says, well, it's whining. And red says, well, you seem to be pretty good at this, especially since black is crushing us and can easily win this game within a few turns. A 10 is rolled on blue's turn, and this is really, really bad. Black has a bunch of cards again. I think they're getting pretty close to winning this game. It's red's turn, and they roll an 11. It's my turn, and I roll a 9. So it gives me a pretty good opportunity to year planning for a city. There are 2 dev cards with 11 cards. This may just be the last roll of the game. Black does a 4/1 for an ore, and they buy another development card. Red, on blue's turn, they play a Monopoly, and they're able to take 9 wheats in total. That's a pretty good Monopoly by blue. They're able to do a city and a settlement, and they still have 11 cards. They do 4/1 for a brick and build a road, then they buy a development card. That was a very strong turn by blue. It's red's turn, and they roll a 7. I tell them that they should probably block the 8 ore or the 4 brick. My opinion, I think the 4 brick is a little bit better since it prevents black from taking longest road. It's also important to note that red didn't have a knight card, so they could be at 8 points themselves. It's my turn, and I roll a 9. This is a great roll for me. So in this turn, I can buy a settlement, a city, or 2 dev cards. I decided to buy 2 dev cards for a few reasons. First of all, I have outs through the victory point or Monopoly. I have another potential out to win if I draw the road building. And I think black is in that position where they're forced to build to 10 points the hard way. And they have several victory points already. I think without the 4s, is going to have a hard time taking longest road or building a settlement. I get a mono and a knight, which is huge. This gives me a strong chance to win the game. Black plays a knight, which I'm grateful for because that's 1 less scary card. And they roll a 7. They move it onto the 9 ore, and they decide to take from blue. Black does a 4/1 for ore, trying to pull for that victory point, and the game doesn't end. That means they're still probably at 9 points. Blue rolls a 7 on their turn, and steals and puts it on the 8 wood and steals from red. The reason why I'm pretty confident that black has victory points, we know at least one of their cards are a victory point, hence it's been sitting in their hand forever, and we have both monopolies. And I don't have a single victory point myself, so that increases the chances of black having a victory point. Blue offers me ores, but I say no. This trade doesn't really help me. Red is offering me ores for wheat, but I don't have it. A 9 rolls, and that gives me a city. I have several options on this turn. I can buy a city, settlement, or I can buy development cards. On this turn, I decide to buy a city and I pass my turn. I decide to hold off on the Monopoly because if I Monopolied, I would be Monopolying blues and reds cards. And the thing is, since I have early positioning on black, I can hold my Monopoly for a defensive Monopoly to make sure black does not win the game. If I track their cards and assume that there are 9 points, I can know what they have in their hand by tracking, then I can Monopoly it so they cannot win, so that they can't win and I can stall them for a single turn. Blue rolls a 4 and he builds a settlement on the 10-11. Now it's red's turn. Red does a 3/1 for wheat and they buy a development card. They could also be at 9 points. Another 4 rolls on my turn, and now black is at 14 cards. This is why I saved the Monopoly, since basically black has a guaranteed win. So with black at 14 cards, I reach down to play my Monopoly, and what? I click on the knight card? What? What was going on through my mind? This is game-losing mistake. Black has the win in hand, 100%, and without a 7, I will lose the game. I can only play 1 development card per turn. I had to play the Monopoly. I start panicking since I realized I messed up. I try to buy a development card, but I panic and my turn ends. On black's turn, they roll a 9, which would have given me the win. And they build a road in the settlement, and they win the game. What a crushing, critical, horrible, game-losing decision by me. I have no idea why I didn't play my Monopoly right there. With those cards, I would be able to 4/1 and get myself to a 9th point, prevent black from winning the game, and then a 9 rolled, so I had the win in hand myself. I do not know why I did that. And with black taking the game, that kicks me out at the tournament in the semifinals. What a crushing, game-losing mistake that could have been prevented if all I did was move a few pixels right and press the Monopoly card instead. All the correct decisions that I made in the prelims and this game was all thrown into the trash by that one horrible decision. With that crushing defeat, let's talk about some lessons we can learn. The first lesson we can learn is when you're on high ore boards, you want to place on the strong wheat sheep. By placing the strong wheat sheep, it guarantees there's a strong chance that you're going to get ore when it comes back to you, so you can play an effective or wheat sheep game. The second lesson we can learn, when someone's close to winning and you have a monopoly, track every one of their cards so you can monopoly them to prevent them from winning the game, so you don't end up like me, losing a critical tournament match. Anyways, thank you so much for watching and keeping up with the series. It was a really fun run, ended by a horrible decision. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Dylighted, and I hope you learned something.